When I went to visit my dad Patrick, 43, I thought it'd be just another family get-together. Instead, a hidden past secret was dropped in the middle of dinner, and suddenly the room turned into a battlefield. Voices were raised, boundaries were crossed, and my whole image of my father shattered. What I found out left me questioning everything about our family. So this all happened just a few weeks ago, and honestly, I'm still trying to process it. For context, my dad, Patrick, is 43, and I don't live with him anymore. I'm in my mid-20s and only visit occasionally. He lives in the same old house where I grew up, a 2-story brick place on a quiet street. It always felt like a home, even though things have been a little tense between us since my parents split years back. This visit was supposed to be chill. My younger sister, Emily 19, was there too, and my Aunt Linda, Dad's older sister, had dropped by. We were sitting around the dining table, eating the lasagna Emily made, when things started to feel weird. My dad was quieter than usual, kind of restless, fidgeting with his fork. Aunt Linda, on the other hand, was chatty, maybe even a little too chatty. At first it was harmless old family stories, embarrassing things from when Dad was a teenager. We laughed, rolled our eyes, the usual. But then she said something that made the air freeze. Linda leaned back in her chair and smirked. Well, at least you didn't end up like you did back in Hall, Patrick. I frowned. What happened in 2002? Emily looked confused too. Dad shot his sister a sharp look, muttering, Don't. Of course, that only made it worse. Don't what? I asked. Linda raised her eyebrows and shrugged, like she was just oh so innocently making conversation. Well, I mean, it's not really a big deal now, everyone makes mistakes, but your dad wasn't exactly the angel he pretended to be. Should probably know the truth instead of this perfect little version he sells you. I felt my stomach drop. Dad's face went pale, and he slammed his fork down. Linda, that's enough. But the damage was already done. Emily and I were staring at him, waiting. He looked cornered, like an animal trapped. Finally he muttered, it was a long time ago, doesn't matter anymore. Linda didn't let it go. She leaned forward, practically whispering but loud enough for everyone to hear. Oh, you mean the time you disappeared for 3 months because of those? Or the time you almost lost custody because of what you did? Emily gasped. I swear my chest went tight, like I couldn't breathe. Wait, what? Dad shoved his chair back and stood. I said enough, he shouted. His voice was shaking not just with anger, but fear. Emily looked at me, her eyes wide and watery. Is that true? And now I didn't even know what to say. Because suddenly, this man who raised me, who I thought I knew, felt like a complete stranger. The lasagna sat half-eaten. The room was silent except for my dad's heavy breathing. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. That safe-home visit had turned into the beginning of something I was not ready for. I swear, the silence in that room could have shattered glass. My dad stood there, fist clenched, staring at Aunt Linda like he wanted her to vanish. Emily's lip was trembling, and I just kept repeating in my head, DRGS. Custody? What the hell is she talking about? Asterisk. Finally, I broke the silence. Dad, is it true? Did you really? My voice cracked. He looked at me, then at Emily, and then just shook his head. It's complicated. Linda scoffed. Complicated? Patrick, stop lying to them. They're adults now. They deserve to know who you really were. Word, he snapped back. Past tense. You don't get to drag it all out just to feel superior. Emily pushed her plate away, her appetite gone. Dad, you can't just say complicated and expect us to drop it. We've lived our whole lives thinking you were this stable guy, the one who always told us not to mess up. And now what? You had a problem. You almost lost us. Her voice cracked on that last word, and it broke something in me. I felt protective of her, but I also wanted the truth. Dad sighed and sat back down, rubbing his face with both hands. Fine, you want the story? Here it is. Yes, I got into some bad stuff when I was younger. It was a rough time. Your mom and I were fighting constantly. I was reckless. I thought I was invincible. I felt my throat dry. So Aunt Linda wasn't lying? He glared at Linda. She's exaggerating, as always. I never abandoned you. Yes, I got into, but I cleaned up before it destroyed me completely. Your mom knew. We agreed not to tell you because you deserve better than to see me as a screw-up. Emily's chair screeched against the tile as she stood up. Her face was red, tears in her eyes. So all those times you told me not to hang around with bad influences, you were just projecting your own crap onto us. That's such a boundary violation, Dad. You built this whole image and shoved it down our throats while hiding your own mess. He stood too, raising his hands like he was trying to calm her down. I was protecting you. Do you understand that? Protecting. If you knew the truth, you would have thought it was okay to follow in my footsteps. I shook my head. Or maybe if you'd been honest, we'd have trusted you more. Instead, you built this wall of lies, and now it's crumbling. Linda muttered under her breath, told you they'd find out eventually. That's when Dad lost it. Get out, Linda. You're not welcome in my house anymore. She stood, smug as ever, grabbing her coat. Fine, but don't blame me when the truth ruins you. I didn't create your mess, Patrick. You did. The door slammed behind her, and the three of us were left in suffocating silence. Emily was crying quietly. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes, and I just sat there, staring at the table, wondering if I even knew who my father really was. After Aunt Linda stormed out, the tension in the house didn't magically disappear, it multiplied. The second her footsteps faded, the air felt heavy, almost suffocating. Dad sat back down at the table, but his hands were trembling so badly he kept knocking over the salt shaker. Emily buried her face in her hands trying to hold back sobs, and I just sat there, unsure where to start. Finally, I spoke. Dad, you can't just leave it at I was reckless. We deserve the full story. What really happened? He stared at me, eyes dark, jaw tight. For a long moment, nobody said a word. Then, slowly, he began. All right. You want the truth? You want everything? Fine. When I was your age, things got messy. I got mixed up with the wrong people. Fights, borrowing money I couldn't pay back. It spiraled fast. Emily's head popped up. Borrowing money? Dad, you never told us about any of this. How bad was it? He swallowed hard. Bad. I almost lost my job. Your mom threatened to take you kids away because I wasn't fit to be around. I thought I could fix everything on my own, but I failed more than once. I hid it from you because I didn't want you to see me like that. I wanted to be the dad you deserved, not the mess I was. I felt a mix of anger and pity. But Dad, that's a huge boundary violation. You built your life around a lie. Every time you lectured me or Emily about responsibility, you were hiding your own past. That's manipulative. He looked harsh, like he was both apologizing and explaining himself at the same time. I know it sounds terrible. I didn't want you to resent me, and maybe I thought if I controlled what you saw, I could make it right, but hiding it was wrong. I can see that now. Emily wiped her eyes, voice shaking. So all this time I thought you were the perfect dad. It was a front. It was never a front, he said quickly, voice urgent. I loved you both. I still do. I just messed up in the past and tried to protect you the only way I knew. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process it. Part of me wanted to scream, part of me wanted to hug him. It was a weird mix of relief and betrayal. Dad, I don't even know how to feel. I feel like I've been lied to my whole life, but I guess I understand why you did it. Emily shook her head. I can understand protecting us, sure, but you can't just hide things forever. Secrets like this don't stay buried. Dad nodded, exhausted. You're right, they never do, and I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust. I hope it's not too late. The room stayed quiet for a while. The lasagna had gone cold, the dishes untouched. But somehow, the silence felt less suffocating than before. For the first time that night, I felt like maybe we could stop putting the pieces back together even if the image of my dad I'd carried for years was forever changed. The past had been exposed. Boundaries had been crossed. But for the first time, I sensed the possibility of honesty, even if it came painfully late. The next few days after that home visit were tense, to say the least. Emily barely spoke to Dad, retreating to her room for hours at a time, scrolling through her phone, or pacing the living room like she was rehearsing what to say next. I stayed in the middle, trying to mediate without being the judge of anyone. I decided to give Dad a chance to explain more. He invited me into the old study, the one with the bookshelves lining every wall and that faint smell of old paper and dust. He closed the door behind us, and I could see how exhausted he looked, like the secret itself was weighing him down more than any of us realized. I don't expect forgiveness overnight, he sat quietly, sinking into the leather chair. I just want to answer your questions. I owe you that much. I took a deep breath. Dad, what about Emily? She's hurt, angry, she feels betrayed. I know, he said. I don't blame her. I would be furious too if I were in her shoes, and I understand if it takes time. I want her to know that I've changed, that I'm not that reckless person anymore. I nodded, trying to steady my voice. And you are willing to be completely honest from now on? Yes, he said firmly. No more hiding. No more pretending. I want transparency. Every single thing I thought I could bury and done running from it. That night, Emily reluctantly joined us in the living room. Dad apologized again, but this time, his words weren't defensive, they were raw, almost painfully so. He admitted not only a near loss of custody, but also smaller lies he told to cover up the chaos missing school meetings, financial mistakes, and the little white lies that had slowly built up over years. Emily sat quietly for a long time, tears streaming, then whispered, I needed to know you weren't the man Aunt Linda said you were. I needed to hear it from you, not someone who wanted to humiliate you. Dad reached for her hand, hesitating before she let him. I am that man, Emily, and I'm also the man who loves you, who failed but wants to do better. I want to be the father you deserve now, not the one from the past. I watched them, feeling a strange mix of relief and lingering disbelief. The past couldn't be erased, but honesty was slowly rebuilding the bridge we'd all been standing on the edge of. Over the next week, we started having longer conversations, sometimes tense, sometimes tearful, but every discussion felt like progress. Dad didn't dodge questions anymore, and Emily was learning that vulnerability didn't mean weakness. I realized that boundaries had been violated, yes, but the act of acknowledging them and setting new ones was what mattered now. By the end of that week, the atmosphere in the house began to shift. It wasn't perfect. The past was still there, lingering in corners of memory and conversation. But for the first time, it felt like our family could start building on honesty rather than illusion. Sometimes, facing the worst of someone you love is the only way to truly understand them. And even though it hurt, it was the beginning of a real conversation that might just save what remained of our family trust. Just when we thought things were starting to settle, Aunt Linda decided she wasn't done stirring the pot. About a week after the revelation, she showed up and announced at the front door, smiling like nothing had happened. I froze when I saw her through the people. Emily froze too, standing behind me. Oh, she's not invited, I whispered. She's family, Dad said firmly, standing behind me now. But that doesn't mean she barges in whenever she wants. The doorbell rang again, impatiently. Emily glared at me. She knows we're home, she muttered. I opened the door cautiously. Linda. She swept past me, ignoring the warning in my voice. Patrick, Emily, oh, come on, don't look so dramatic. I just wanted to check in after our little family chat the other night. Dad's jaw tightened. Check in? You humiliated me in front of my kids. You are not checking in. You are overstepping boundaries again. Leave. Linda tilted her head, mockingly sweet. Overstepping? Patrick, you've been lying to these kids for years. I'm just helping them see reality. Emily stepped forward, trembling with anger. Reality? You call spreading my dad's worst moments a reality check. You crossed the line before, and you're doing it again. Linda laughed softly, the kind that makes your skin crawl. Emily, honey, life isn't all sunshine and daisies. Better they hear it from me than some carefully scripted dad version. I felt my blood boil. You don't get to decide that. You don't get to manipulate us for your own twisted version of the truth. Leave now. Dad finally moved, putting a protective hand on my shoulder. I mean it, go, or I'll call the police. Linda Smuck faltered. Patrick, you've changed. There was a hint of unease now, but she tried to cover it with a shrug. Fine, but don't think this is over. Secrets like yours, they always resurface. She left, slamming the door hard enough to make the windows rattle. For a moment, silence fell over the house again. Emma sank onto the couch, burying her face in a pillow, and I ran my fingers through my hair, trying to shake off the tension. Dad sat down beside us. I know that wasn't easy to watch, he said quietly. But she doesn't get to control the narrative anymore. From now on, we decide what's shared, when, and how. Emily peeked up. But she'll keep coming back, won't she? Yes, Dad admitted. And every time she does, we handle it together. Boundaries are something I should have respected all along, not just for my past mistakes, but to protect you both from people like her. I nodded slowly, realizing he meant it. That was the first time Dad had actively drawn a line for our family, not just reacting, but defending the space we needed to heal. The tension lingered, sure. But that confrontation, Linda's interference, and Dad finally standing up for himself and us was like a pivot point. For the first time, it felt like our family wasn't just surviving the secrets of the past. We were actively learning how to protect ourselves while still trying to repair what had been broken. It wasn't perfect. Nothing about this was perfect. But it was progress. And right now, in that quiet moment, progress felt like enough. After the confrontation with Aunt Linda, the house felt strangely lighter, even though the tension from the past week still lingered. Dad started small. He cooked dinner one night, and instead of us just sitting quietly, he actually asked us about our day, genuinely listening. It was a small gesture, but it felt like the first real connection we'd had since the secrets came out. Emily was still guarded, but she started talking more small things at first, like school and friends, nothing heavy. I noticed her glances at Dad softened slightly, as if she was testing whether he could be trusted now. And Dad, he seemed more aware of boundaries. He never brought up the past unless we did, and he didn't try to lecture or justify himself. One evening, we were all sitting in the living room, Dad with a cup of tea, Emily scrolling on her phone, and I was doodling in my notebook. He cleared his throat. I know I can't erase the past, he said softly, but I want to be honest moving forward. No lies, no hiding. I want you both to feel safe asking me anything. Emily looked up, hesitant. Even the hard stuff? Especially hard stuff, Dad replied. I want you to know you can trust me with your questions, and I'll answer without excuses. I felt a lump in my throat. It was such a simple thing, but after years of half-truths, it meant the world. I nodded. I think we can try. Over the next few days, Dad shared more about this past, but in a way that felt controlled, like he was giving us pieces carefully instead of letting Aunt Linda or some random woman throw it all at us. He admitted mistakes, but he also explained lessons he'd learned. Emily started opening up too, sharing her fears and frustrations, and for the first time, it felt like a real dialogue rather than a one-sided confession. We also set clear rules about Aunt Linda. Dad made it clear she wasn't allowed to interfere in our conversations or show up uninvited. Emily and I felt empowered. We finally had boundaries that were respected. It didn't erase the past, but it gave us a framework to move forward. One afternoon, we were all in the kitchen, making pasta together. Emily laughed at Dad's terrible chopping skills. I teased him for singing off-key, and he smiled genuinely, no tension, no hidden agenda. I realized then that healing didn't mean forgetting or pretending nothing happened. It meant creating a space where honesty, respect, and boundaries could coexist. By the end of the week, the house felt warmer. The secrets had been exposed, the violations acknowledged, and boundaries firmly set. We weren't perfect, but we were stronger, closer, and finally beginning to understand each other. For the first time in years, I felt like our family could survive the past not because it didn't hurt, but because we were facing it together. Weeks passed, and our family slowly found a new rhythm. The tension from Dad's past and Aunt Linda's interference didn't completely vanish, but it became manageable. We had learned how to talk about hard truths without letting them define every interaction. One Sunday afternoon, Dad suggested we sit down for a proper family check-in. It felt a little awkward at first, but I realized this was exactly what we needed. Emily and I sat across from him at the kitchen table, the same table where the first revelations had dropped like bombs. Dad looked calmer now, almost at peace with himself. I know the past was messy, he started, and I know I hurt you both by hiding things. I can't change that, but I want to be better now, and I want us to rebuild trust together. Honestly, that's all I can offer. Emily nodded slowly, her eyes glistening. I think I can start trusting you again, but it's going to take time, and we need boundaries, no more secrets. No more Aunt Linda controlling the narrative. Dad reached across the table, taking her hand. Agreed, boundaries are important, and I'll respect them, always. I spoke up next. And I'll try to be more patient too. This has been hard for all of us, but I feel like we're finally moving forward instead of just reacting to past mistakes. The atmosphere shifted. For the first time since the secrets came out, the weight on my shoulders felt lighter. We shared small laughs, talked about plans for the next weekend, and even reminisced about old family trips real, warm memories that weren't tinted by lies or hidden shame. Later, I reflected on everything that had happened. Dad's past could have destroyed the relationship entirely. Aunt Linda's interference could have torn us apart. But honesty, accountability, and boundaries had saved us. I realized that trust isn't about perfection. It's about willingness to face mistakes, to admit them, and to commit to doing better. Emily and I had learned something too. It's okay to confront uncomfortable truths. It's okay to set limits, even with people we love. And most importantly, it's okay to accept that someone can change, even if they've made serious mistakes in the past. That night, I went to bed feeling a strange mix of exhaustion and relief. The house was quiet, but it no longer felt suffocating. The past was out in the open, the secrets no longer lurking in shadows. Our family had survived exposure, betrayal, and manipulation, and we were still standing. I don't know what the future holds. Aunt Linda may try to stir the pot again, and Dad may face challenges he can't control. But for the first time in years, I feel hope. Hope that our family, scarred but honest, can move forward together. It's not a perfect ending, but it's real. And sometimes that's enough.